Hello and welcome to Delve Deep Namibia. My name is Ogito Greg, and today I have the honor and privilege of having the Chief Executive Officer of Namdeb Diamond Corporation in studio with me, Riaan Burger. How are you, Riaan?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, Kate. And great to be here.
Excellent, excellent. I've got some questions prepared so that we can make the most of our time. Let's start off with, it's been 2 years since the announcement of Namdeb's long-term plan. What has been some of the greatest milestones at operations?
So, Kate, this has been a milestone or an event that has been long time coming for us as a business. It's something that we've been looking forward to. For a long time, you would recall that Namdeb talked about closing down. Initially, we would have closed down in 2022. So that approval of the mine, of the extension of our life of mine by more than 20 years has been a major milestone for us in October 2021, as you said. And since then, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we were mining 5 mining phases, totaling approximately 400,000 square meters per annum of what we call bedrock cleaning, which is really where we produce our diamonds from. And we initially at about 400,000, then we ramped up to about 800,000, and the last 2 years has been spent really significantly increasing that capacity. We just finished that process. We now ramped up to about 1.4 million square meters per annum, which is a significant increase.
Yes.
And that, together with that, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that had to happen. So we started off in the approval of that plan to develop a strategy where we were actually executing this ramp-up project in parallel with our current operations. And as you can imagine, that's not always that easy. But very successfully so, and we literally just completed that process. We're now fully ramped up. We added significant additional stripping, overburden stripping capacity, around 60% increase in the amount of volume of tons that we're doing. We added a complete new front end to our main processing plant, alternate feed stream as we call it. And because of all the additional employees and contractors, the project also involved additional accommodation in Oranjemund. And so a whole bunch of stuff had to happen over this 2-year period.
Yes.
And we literally just reached that milestone. We are actually running at full capacity at 8 mining phases. So very happy with that process.
Excellent.
We have, the entire project was about 200,000 man hours.
Sure.
All of that achieved without any lost time injuries. We added, if I recall, 105 new pieces of machinery. And so very pleased with the project, and very pleased that whilst we're also executing this project in the last 2 years, we also were able to achieve our production targets. And as I said, it's always very tricky to do what they call brownfields projects, where you're trying to do a project in parallel with your current operations.
Yes.
So very happy with the project team for what they've been able to achieve.
For the benefit of our viewers who might not be familiar, you guys use a process, I think it's called accretion, bedrock from the sea.
It's very interesting. We've got an absolutely unique mine. It's a unique ore body sitting on the coastline. And as you may know, those who are familiar with our operations would know that ore body actually is from land well into the sea, where our sister company, Depth Marine Namibia, mines offshore in about 100 meters of water depth. And that ore body actually extends through that entire area. And so what we've consistently been doing since about 2010 is to continue to push the sea back and then mine out those areas that we accrete, as we call it. And accretion is really the process where you put sand on the beach and then you mine behind that. You create a dry area behind it, you dewater it, you mine it, and then you move the sand out again. Effectively creating large seawalls and dikes, which you then mine behind. But it's a significant operation that, as I said, we pushed the sea back. We actually moved the coastline of Namibia out for that area by about 800 meters, some places up to 1 kilometer, and we intend to go quite some distance
Wow.
further out still. So, something different, very different to any other mining
That's
operation.
incredible. And all this for diamonds. Now let me ask you, how does Namdeb contribute to the continued and growing desirability of natural Namibian diamonds worldwide?
So I think that's a very topical question at the moment. I think we all heard about the lab-grown diamonds and the influx of more and more diamonds that are actually manufactured in the world. And there's quite a significant distinction between something that's made in a factory and something that's rare, beautiful, and billions of years old and unique, that comes from the earth. And I think it's been very important for us to tell the story of natural diamonds and also the good that natural diamonds do in Namibia. And in particular, the contribution that our diamonds here in Namibia do to not only the fiscus of Namibia as a whole, but also in terms of the lives of people, how it develops communities, how the money is used to build schools and hospitals. How do we advance our country and our communities by the good that our diamonds do in the world? And you would have seen that we recently revised our company strategy as well, and our purpose of Namdeb really is mining for good. And that's what we fundamentally believe as an organization. And what we're doing is to also then link what we do in clear categories around the goals, the sustainable development goals. And as part of the initiative or by the work done by the De Beers group of companies, we call it Building Forever. And that Building Forever is all about what do we do in terms of people and planet. How do we make sure that the good that we do actually gets translated to people on the ground and stuff that people can physically see that is happening around us?
The impact.
Absolutely, to see that impact. And obviously our first focus as Namdeb is around the community of Oraniemund. And a lot of our focus has been going into how do we fundamentally transform that town. We know that diamonds, any mining activity that you have in the world would be finite. And one day also mining activities there would come to an end. And it's so important for us to make sure that when that ever happens, and we intend to be there for a long time, as I said, but when that happens, that there's a community that stays behind that has got a legacy of other activities, other economic activities that have started up. So a lot of our focus has actually been going around the town of Oraniemund and how do we grow the town of Oraniemund in other ways? How do we promote tourism? What can we do about sustainable agriculture? What can we do about renewable energy? So a lot of the other stuff around how do we have a legacy that goes well beyond the mining we do today.
That's awesome. But now topically in terms of the diamonds, I'd like to ask you about the international diamond prices and what we are seeing now and how it impacts Namdeb.
I think a very good question. We are in a stage in the world where there are a lot of factors coming together. So a lot of macroeconomic factors around affecting the price of diamonds. The majority of our product, our diamonds, are sold in the United States. I think roughly about half of all the world's diamonds are actually sold in the States, and there are some macroeconomic issues around that. And China is a significant factor, and there are some issues around the Chinese economy and its expected recovery. So that is impacting where we see the market at the moment, and also, at the same time, there's also stock in the what we call the diamond pipeline. Which is affecting the outlook, at least in the short term. And of course, it has got an impact on us. It's got a direct impact on us in terms of our sales. And we do know that these things are cyclical. We do know it changes. We know these factors change. And what is important for us, obviously, is to make sure that when we have these down cycles, we're able to go through that, work through that. And that means making sure that our efficiencies are there. And that is really what we've been pushing as an organization, to make sure that we're really efficient in what we're doing. We optimize our mining phases. You know, and we always will then at that stage reduce our capital expenditure for those periods. But equally important is that we know it's a cycle.
Okay.
You know, natural diamonds, we believe in the value of natural diamonds in the long term. All the indications are that you know, and we've seen that from the other cycles, is that you get these big dips and then you got good recoveries at the end.
Okay.
And so because of that, it's so important that when you do, even if you reduce, like we're reducing, as I said, some of our capital expenditure and discretionary spend, but so important to make sure that you do not damage your long-term capacity to produce. And that's really what we are focusing on as a business.
Yeah.
Making sure we're efficient today, but also looking at our long-term capacity to retain that. And that's really our response to the current situation. And we're well supported, I might say also, by our shareholders, by De Beers and the Namibian government really being very supportive.
Yeah.
You know. And I must say also the same when we had the new long-term plan approved, very supportive, and also during downturns as we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, they've been very supportive.
Well, speaking of that support from shareholders, what does the government decision to grant Namdeb a royalty remission mean to you as the leader of the organization?
I think the most important thing to me is that, you know, as I said, we would have been talking about Namdeb's closure if it wasn't for that assistance that we got from government, and it was absolutely essential for us. It was essential for us to bridge this period until we can fully ramp up. Significant capital went into the ramp up, significant operational cost, and it was so important for us to bridge this period. So we're obviously very thankful for government to give it that royalty relief to us. But one must also understand that if it wasn't for that, we had about 2,500 employees that we're talking about that would not, you know, have employment.
Yes.
And the flip side of that is that we, through the royalty relief, were able to move the company into a scale where it is really sustainable in the long term. We knew that at the scale we were simply not long-term sustainable.
Okay.
We had to be at a certain scale, and that royalty relief allowed us to do that.
Yeah.
So not only did we retain the, call it 2,500 jobs, we added between ourselves and contractors about another 600 positions.
Yeah.
You know, so at the moment you've got more than 3,000 people finding their employment. That's direct employment. And I think the Chamber of Mines at some stage worked out that for every one person there's about 7 others indirectly employed.
Yes,
so, you know, you can talk about
multiplier.
roughly a multiplier of, say, 18,000 people that are actually finding employment from that.
Yeah.
And then we don't talk about fiscal contribution and all the other local procurement and so forth that comes up.
But
so
how
I
did
think
you feel?
sorry?
How did you feel?
Maybe.
What did it feel?
Look, I think, you know, personally it was a milestone for me of trust that the stakeholders and the shareholders put in us, a fundamental belief that what we are doing is the right thing. And I think where I'm sitting today, I'm so pleased that through this year we could actually demonstrate to our stakeholders that we, you know, give us the opportunity to do this, and we'll show you that we will achieve it. And hence, as I said, we last week I think we actually achieved this year's carat production target. So in parallel with our ramp up, which we promised our shareholders, we also did the production. So I'm extremely pleased and proud of the team who have done this. And you know, for me, it comes back to the people.
Okay.
You know, we saved the jobs, and I can tell you it's a 2,500 people's jobs that we saved, and we created more jobs. But that's, you know, that's just the number.
Yeah, yeah.
What makes me really proud is the capacity of people, the tenacity, the innovation that the team has shown, and being able to pull this off. I'm so proud of the Namdeb team.
That leads us right into the next question, which is Namdeb has always played a significant role in skills development. How will the mine expansion continue cementing the Namibian diamond mining skills base?
So, I think when we get together at the Chamber of Mines, the annual expo, what we always have is there's always dozens of ex-Namdeb employees who now work for other mines in the country, or even other institutions, banks and so forth, that would come to the Namdeb stand and say, "Thank you, I've had my start here." And I think it's one of those things we're absolutely proud of as an organization, that we really have been, I think, a key developer of Namibian skills. In this country. At the moment, we've got less than 1% of our employees on work permits, So we are really a Namibian company with Namibians, built by Namibians as we are speaking. And we continue to invest in these skills. We've got a very, very attractive training scheme for all our employees, where we really encourage people to study, and we support them with their studies. And as a consequence, when you talk to our people on the floor, you will see that most of them are studying something.
Okay.
And that's part of a culture that you create over time.
Yes.
And it's part of a legacy I think a business can leave.
Yes.
So your positive legacy you want to leave is not only in how much money I made, or I put this into grants that I gave, or sponsorships or something.
Yeah.
But legacy you want to leave is, what capacity do you leave behind for the country?
Yes.
And I think that's something that in the Namdeb team we're extremely proud of, the capacity that we've built there.
Excellent. Well done. Namdeb recently unveiled Namibia's first ever electric bus. What other innovative developments is Namdeb initiating that could be valuable to the future of diamond mining?
So we're actually coming back to an earlier question you asked me around, what is it that we do to do good with our diamonds? What we realized, and I think that the De Beers Group's realized quite a long time ago already, is that our product, diamonds, is a luxury discretionary spend. And more consumers are wanting to know what good is my diamond done?
What am I buying?
Yeah, what am I buying? And am I buying something that's done something good in the world? And as I said earlier, we're doing a lot in terms of building communities. We're doing a lot in terms of conservation. But the one thing that we know in future is that somewhere in the future, and that time would come not too long in the future, we have to look at what is our carbon footprint. Otherwise, firstly, we won't be able to sell diamonds. But secondly, it's also the right thing to do.
Yes.
We want to leave a sustainable world behind for our children. And it is a business imperative, but it's also a moral imperative. Yes. And so we need to do both. And so at Namdeb, we've launched into that. We've got a commitment to become carbon neutral. Okay. And it's got a whole range of different projects that is associated with that. Probably the most significant is a wind farm, which we are in the process of developing. We haven't built it yet, but it is in the development phase. Obviously, for those who've been down to Oranje will know it's a pretty windy place. Yes. So there's a lot of good, strong wind potential, and our intention is to be able to take away about half of our electricity consumption with renewables. Wow! But obviously, that's not enough. Yes. You also need to look at the wind doesn't blow all the time. And so we're looking at solar options. We've already just installed and commissioned in this year. Our office blocks in Oranje are all completely on solar. Okay. So we've done that, and the technology is quite incredible. I must just tell you. If you go in your cell phone, you can immediately see what the consumption is today, for instance. But so we've done that. We've got a number of other solar projects and the various sizes that we are looking at investigating. But on top of that, we also know we need to do something about trucks, buses, yes, and vehicles. Okay, so it's not only your electricity consumption, it's also what are you doing in terms of of your diesel
Yes.
use. And there are a number of options there. Hydrogen, we know hydrogen's coming. There's some great work being done on that.
Okay.
But it won't be the solution for everything.
Yes.
And electric vehicles, electric buses, electric trucks will probably form part of that equation. But you have to take a first step.
Yes.
And that's really what we did now. We bought our first battery electric bus. It is running in the town of Oranjemund.
Who rides the bus?
Normally our employees drive on the bus to work.
Okay.
You know, so and our bus drivers drive it, and you know, we're testing it in different environments. We're running it to one of our satellite mines, Sendlingsdrift. It's been performing very well.
Okay.
And then the intentions later is to take it into the actual mining sites where the environment's a bit more harsh. But you know, you have to really test these
Yes.
things. You know, otherwise you can't progress. So it's one of those first steps, low-hanging fruit. So let's try this, and obviously we'll continue looking at what can we do in terms of the rest of our fleet. But it's one of those steps that we're taking on this journey,
Okay.
and it's a journey that I think inevitably in the end we're all going to have to take some other time.
You're just leading the way.
We're just leading the way.
Excellent. You mentioned conservation. My question is, what examples of Namdeb's conservation and rehabilitation of the environment where it mines makes you most proud? And which projects could become national environmental and tourism assets in the future?
I think very good question. I think one has to understand that the environment in which we are mining, ourselves and our predecessors, CDM, diamonds been mined in the area since 1908. So we're talking, well more than 100 years obviously. So, and because of that, you'll remember the old Sperrgebied was proclaimed, which has been off limits to people for all that time.
All my life.
Yeah, all of our lives. But as a consequence, and I think not originally intended, but as a consequence where we are now, it's probably one of the most pristine areas on the planet. And there are many areas in the Sperrgebied which nobody's ever been. And it actually leaves, although it wasn't originally intended like that, it's left an impression on us as Namdeb also that we, in our license areas at least, where we've been the custodians of entrance and so forth through the Diamond Act, that we also have a legacy to protect in this pristine area. And as part of that legacy, we take our environmental responsibility very, very seriously. Now, of the entire sorry, my number isn't that good. But of the entire park, we've disturbed in 100 years of mining less than 1% as well. So it's a very, very, the mining footprint is actually very small.
Okay.
But what also, so you've got this pristine area, you have a mining license in it, but you also have a unique responsibility. We realized that many years ago. And so as part of that legacy, many years ago already, we started working with government to say, all right, what is the future land use of this? And the land use plan was developed for the entire park.
Okay.
And some areas are designated as nature-based tourism, others are designated as mining-based tourism. And so within this future of the park, we've also adopted our environmental management plan accordingly.
Okay.
So for instance, in sites where we've been where this is of high conservation value, we have had complete rehabilitation of those sites, and to such an extent that there are mining areas that people go there today and have no idea there's ever been a mine, because we have to do that if we, for the legacy we want to leave behind.
Yes.
And then some areas we just do limited rehabilitation because that land use would be mining-based tourism. People are actually interested to come and visit the old historic mines.
Yes.
So it's not everything is rehabilitated because it's got a tourism value associated with it. So accordingly we have rehabilitated. What we now do nowadays is we've got concurrent rehabilitation.
Okay.
So as we're mining, we're actually backfilling some of these areas, we're leveling, so that you don't, wait until you're at the end of the life of mine and then you start doing something about it. So a lot of our areas are currently concurrently being rehabilitated. And then in terms of biodiversity conservation, there are a lot of unique species in the area,
Yes.
red listed species, and we have worked with really reputable organizations, Kew Gardens and so forth, to make sure that we do the necessary research first, then also make sure that we remove vegetation, store vegetation, make sure that we can then replant them in sensitive areas. So a lot of that work has been ongoing. On top of that, we're a key sponsor of, for instance, the Brown Ahina project.
Yeah.
We've done extensive work to make sure that our impacts on the beach areas is limited and how the beaches recover. Because we do know that one day we're not going to be mining, and we want to make sure that we do not have a permanent disturbance, particularly in those shallow water and beach areas where where some of the disturbances happen. So a lot of that work happens, and our environmental team is an extremely active team that constantly, I think, keeps everybody on their toes. We do, as I said, understand our responsibility and unique responsibility that we have in that pristine area.
But is there a specific site that you feel a bit close to?
I think we mined at the Pocket Beaches areas in the early 2000s. I was actually the original project manager on one of those, so I feel pretty close to that.
Okay.
And it's an area north of Oranje where we mined, as I said, 20 years ago. I think we set a standard of rehabilitation in those areas that you won't see anywhere else.
Wow.
So I feel very proud about the work that we've done there. Very low impact mining and 100% rehabilitation.
I'd love to visit one day. Maybe you can.
Most welcome to do so.
How has Namdeb empowered communities and helped develop settlements in Namibia? And what plans does Namdeb have in this regard for the future?
I said earlier that Oranje is really our
home base.
It's our home base. Of course, we also have a legacy around Lüderitz, our operations there, so we always keep a footprint in Lüderitz. And we've continued to support the community in Lüderitz as well with a number of projects. But we are, and also obviously in the Karas region in general. But predominantly our focus has been Oranje.
Yeah.
And Oranje is, I think, it's a town that's got a unique opportunity.
Okay.
Many years ago, when long before Oranje was officially proclaimed as a town, we started working with our stakeholders. We started working with the community, and then later on, when the Oranje Town Council was elected, we all came together and we said, okay, so how do we want to see the future of this little town? At that stage, I must also say, it wasn't actually a town, it was accessory works to the mine, which is very different to a town. But we knew that to develop that, which I said, so accessory works, into a sustainable town, you need a deliberate effort. It doesn't happen organically. If you go all over the world, you'll see that mining towns where mines close down inevitably fail.
Yes.
You have to have a deliberate strategy for a town to become long-term sustainable. And so with the town council and other stakeholders, we developed a plan which had essentially three legs, and the one builds upon the other. The first one is transfer. We've got a mining accessory works to a mine that has to be transferred over to a town council and to community. People must buy their houses.
Yes.
And that's actually more trickier than what you think, because the town the accessory works was never built as a town. So for instance, all the electrical connections were wrong. The water pipes, your garden and my garden might be on the same water pipe or something.
Okay.
So a lot of that technically had to be corrected. And then of course all the survey work had to be done, and then you had to sell the properties. And that was quite a bit more challenging than we expected. But as we sit here today, more than half of the properties in Oranje has either been sold or is in the sales process, as employees and other people have picked up the sales and started buying their properties.
Own their own piece.
To own their own piece, because you have to have that.
Yeah.
No town can be successful if it's only owned by one entity. And then leading from the transfer, the next step is what we call transition.
Okay.
If you're in accessory works, people don't really own their town or their place because everything belonged to the mine.
Yeah.
So transitioning is where the residents of the town really start taking ownership, where they say, this is our town.
Yeah.
This community is important to us. And that's all about how do you do with schools, and health service and so forth. And everything used to belong to the mine. And so it was so important to make sure that we've got public schools in Orion. That process has happened. It was important to have public health services. That has happened and it needs to improve.
Okay.
But on top of that, you also have where your employees, or not your employees, your residents of the town become less employees and more owns the town. People retire there and they call it home,
Yes.
rather than just a place to go and work. And I think it's probably one of the most pleasing things for me to see nowadays, is where people really started to call Oranienmoed home and believe that it is a place that they want to retire. And we've had, for instance, residents that stayed there years ago, who grew up their children coming back from overseas and buying property in Oranienmoed because they want to stay there.
Yeah.
But also, again, it doesn't happen organically. You have to consciously work on these things. So there is an organization that we're supporting, but it's a community-based organization called Oranienmoed 2030. Mm-hmm. And they're really an organization that, represents the residents of the town, to say this is our town, what are we going to do together? And so what they're organizing is every month, for instance, there's a community market, and there are fun runs and a lot of other activities that really brings the community together.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the second step, is transition. And then the third step is transform. Okay, so transfer is just making it physically a town. Transition is how do you get the community involved, and then transformation. Now, transformation is the economic transformation, and that's by far the most difficult step to achieve.
Okay.
If you've been absolutely dependent only on one entity like Namdeb for your economics and your future of the town, to then become a town or a community that has a number of other revenue streams and a bunch of other economic activity, that's quite tricky.
Yes.
And as I said, it doesn't happen organically. So together with our stakeholders at that stage, when we developed the strategy, we created an entity called UMDIS.
Okay.
And UMDIS is a Section 21 not-for-profit company, and its only objective really is to assist with this economic transformation. Do feasibility studies, do seed funding, look at what is possible, what's not possible in terms of other economic activities. And we've had success. We've not where we need to be by any stretch of the imagination as a town, as a community, but we are seeing other businesses starting to flow into town. More and more tourists are coming into town. The fact that Fly Namibia flies into Oranienmoed now every day of the week is extremely handy, because it really connects Oranienmoed to the outside world. And we are starting to see this transformation, economic transformation happening. But part of that is to create enablers.
Okay.
And we believe Oranienmoed is sitting in an absolutely unique position, between on the border. It's a border town.
Yes.
It's got the river. It's got a lot of, it's next to a Ramsar site. It's got a good connection into South Africa with a border post. As I said, we've got flights into Oranienmoed, but that's not enough. You need to create more. You need to start creating connectivity in other ways. So part of what we, for instance, what UMDIS has done, together with Telkom Namibia in a partnership, is to bring fiber to town.
Oh, excellent.
So you've got high-speed internet. So you need land connectivity, road connectivity, which we now have, and proper roads everywhere. You need air connectivity, which we have, but you also need digital connectivity, which we also now have. So that's one of the enablers. The other thing that you need to have some unique stuff going on in a town to attract people.
Yeah.
And what Umdis has also been doing then is to sponsor a lot of artists
Okay.
to come to Oranje Mond and go into the Spergebied and look at some of those beautiful, unique areas and to start creating art from it. So if you come to Oranje Mond, you'll see it's really transforming into a little art town.
Wow.
Which make it a unique place to visit.
Yes.
It's very different, you know. And then with that, museums. So also through these, there's been the work done on the Oranje Mond Museum. It's called the Jasper House,
Okay.
which is really a beautiful little museum, showing you the history of the town, a little bit about the history of mining. So you have to bring these things together, as I said. There's a little theatre in Oranje Mond, not quite as active as we would like it, but there is a theatre. But so you know, as I said, these things don't happen organically.
Yeah.
They have to be planned out. And if you want to have a legacy that is positive, well beyond mining, then you actually have to work together, you know, with as a mining operation, as a community, as a council, with all your stakeholders. Say, okay, together, how are we going to create a sustainable future for this community? I think we're on the journey. We're not quite there yet, but some good work.
How big is Oranje Mond now? How many people?
I'm not 100% sure at the moment. You know, there's been a lot of movement. I can tell you the employees, but I'm not sure what. But the census will tell us. But
Yes.
I think at last estimate, I think it was just over 10,000. But I'm very much under correction on that.
Okay. But all of that brings us into my last question for this session. What legacy would you like to leave behind at Namdeb? And what would you like the enduring Namdeb legacy for Namibia to be in the long term?
I think, you know, first and foremost, for me, and probably the most important is the people legacy. You know, we've been on a journey, and I've joined Namdeb in January 1995, so I've been there for a lifetime. And it's a completely different organization to what it is today.
Okay.
And I think probably one of the things that I feel the proudest of is the people transformation. You know, the talent that we created, the passionate people who are so innovative that you know, it surprises me every day that the people that come out and do things against the odds. That is probably the thing that has given me most joy in my work, is seeing incredibly talented people developing. And I think we at Namdeb have co-created a culture which promotes that, where people are, I think, feel free to try things. Sometimes they don't work, but that's how you progress. And if it wasn't, to my mind, for that culture that we co-created with a lot of the team, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I think that's probably the number one legacy for me, is the people legacy. I think the second one is that, you know, the legacy I think all of us in the Namdeb team feels proud of, is this absolute tenacity and innovation. You know, and at some stage, maybe we can share some of the things that we've done in terms of technology. We've built some of the most incredible projects and teams and machines. Sorry, that we had to do because nobody else mines in the world as we do. We built cut-off walls into the sea. We've built walking jacking platform that walked out into the sea to do drill. Yeah, it's you know, we advanced the knowledge of coastal engineering so much that we've got probably some of the best experts in the world on coastal engineering now. And we had to do that. We wouldn't be here if we didn't do these projects. Yes. And we're extremely proud of what we achieved there. You know, and we've had to put sand into the sea for this accretion in ways that people haven't thought about. We used dredges, we used overland conveyors. Necessitated by having to survive and create this life. So that innovation, I'm very, very proud of the team's innovation. And I think then thirdly for me is the community transformation. always a painful process. You know, when you're working with communities, if you remind it's got a town, as I said, the accessory works in you, then you've got full control.
Yeah.
And this transformation process that we embarked on with the town and the community has been challenging at times,
Yeah.
but it's also been so good because we know what we're creating as a lasting legacy, and I think that's something we're really proud of.
That's awesome. You know, you spoke about the culture and the tenaciousness of it, and also the achievements which glitter. You know, it's so like something, so like a precious stone, so like a...
We believe so, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
a diamond.
Like a diamond, of course. Brilliant like a diamond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burger.
Thank you very much.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Delve Deep Namibia has delved deep with Riaan Burger at Namdeb Diamond Corporation to share with you some insights and some glittering future. Thank you very much for joining us.